What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? And today I'm going to be talking about the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I kind of want to talk a little bit about this game in general, and I really want to talk about my first experience with this game overall as well. I did a video on the differences between and the comparisons that of the Thieves Guild questline in Oblivion versus Skyrim's Thieves Guild questline 2. And that video did magnificently well in the viewership algorithm on YouTube, and I'm hoping that this video is probably going to be doing the same. But either or, this is one thing I really want to mention when it comes to this game, Oblivion. Okay, my first experience with this game is a fairly interesting one, and the reason being is because it's not just about the leveling system that this game actually pertains. It's the fact that where this game really stands it from apart from Skyrim. And what I mean by that, this game really utilizes a deep role-playing mechanics. And it was very less noticeable in Skyrim because Skyrim was much more of a dumbed-down experience from Oblivion. And I'm sure a lot of people maybe agree with me. But point being, ladies and gentlemen here, is that Oblivion is a very special game, other than its atrocious leveling system that I have initially mentioned before. And by all means, I think that this game is utterly amazing. And my experience with this game is, like I said, it's fairly interesting, is because of the fact where this game really brings me to a certain type of degree of how I really feel about this game. And it's the fact that what this game was able to do for me as a gamer and how much I really appreciate a game other than its leveling system, as I previously mentioned, is that this game is mythical. Its lore is absolutely amazing. I love the visual aesthetics and its architectural and constructional design of the world of Tamriel or the world of Cyrodiil in Oblivion. And I think Cyrodiil is definitely a remembered place. I believe that Cyrodiil is a much better place than in Skyrim. But Skyrim was the Norse mythology. It was the Viking thing. But with Cyrodiil, it was a more magical experience. The experience was, it was the factions. You have the Fighters Guild, you have the Thieves Guild, you have the Dark Brotherhood, you have all these different types of unique guilds, much like the mages, which I did play a little bit. And I would have to say, I think the mages guild in Oblivion, it was fairly unique from any other type of faction when it comes to games like the Elder Scrolls or even Fallout. Fallout obviously doesn't have like a mages guild, but my comparison there was a little off kilter there, so my apologies on that. But this is where I think Oblivion does something far more unique from what Skyrim did. Because Skyrim with its factions, while they were good and while they were dumbed down to a certain degree, but what I'm saying is that I really think that Oblivion did its faction quest lines much better. They were more inquisitive, they were unique, they were fairly, and they always gave you really good personal rewards of doing certain types of acts within that quest of each faction. And that's what made those factions so great within the world of Oblivion. I believe when it came to the Thieves Guild questline or the Mages Guild or the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim, though, there were some rewards, but the rewards weren't all that greater than from what they were in the factions in Oblivion. And that's where I was going with that. And this is the reason why Oblivion is much more well-loved from a lot of Elder Scrolls fans and players than Skyrim. But like I said, Skyrim did indeed sell fairly well. But Oblivion, I'm sure that this game sold well as well. But this game, Oblivion, it did a lot of things that Skyrim couldn't do. It was the fact that, as I previously mentioned when it came to the factions, like the Thieves Guild or the Dark Brotherhood specifically, or even the Mages Guild or the Fighters Guild in Oblivion, there was a rank and file system. as I previously mentioned in my previous video on Thieves Guild versus the Thieves Guild in Skyrim and Oblivion. But point being, that's where Oblivion really shines, not just because of its own environmental storytelling. It's the main story itself and how these factions in the game of Oblivion really helped the benefit of the full story of the game itself as well. And I think that's where this game really, really does a magnificent job in all fronts because of that specific reason. Now, I think when it comes to my first experience with this game, my apologies on this, is that when I first started playing this game back in the day when this game initially launched, and when I first picked it up for the first time as well, it was the fact that I was not ready for a game like this. I was not ready for what the systems of the game was able to provide for me. And it was the fact that, it was the character creation. The character creation is far more unique in Oblivion than it was in Skyrim, because in Skyrim was actually my very first Elder Scrolls game I've ever played, and it's the reason why I actually went to Oblivion and played it for a good solid, I don't know, maybe about 3 or 4 hours. And I went through the Dark Brotherhood quest line and the Thieves Guild quest line, and I enjoyed them immensely. They were so fascinating and so epically well proportioned and design of its philosophies of the story of those factions. It was so good, and it's the reason why I think Oblivion, as I previously mentioned, why Oblivion is a much better game from Skyrim, because of the faction quests. It doesn't matter what faction that you're in, because they're always going to give you a sense of unique style of play or gameplay aesthetic to what your character is pertained of a certain type of play style as well. So that's what's really cool about that as well too. Skyrim was like that though too, but Skyrim, like I said, it was more dumbed down. It was not fleshed out as well as much as Oblivion's was. But that's what I'm saying. That's where I'm saying I'm bringing it down to the chassis. When it comes to Oblivion, it shows off the faction quest lines and the main story itself are all integrated into one whole entire the whole entire world of Cyrodiil. It's what makes this game utterly important. I felt like that when it came to the factions and the main story in Skyrim, while they were somewhat important, but you didn't get that really amazing feel about it. I felt, to me, in my own personal opinion, it was a little bit of a letdown, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. But that's where I'm saying when it came to Oblivion, though, Oblivion just did a lot of things better when it came to its main story, when it came to its faction quests. And it was the fact that, now going back to my experience with this game, as I previously already mentioned, sort of in a sort of way, is that when I closed my very first Oblivion gate, it was one hell of an experience, because it was the fact that you're going up against different types of species or creatures known as the Dremora. And while you can summon Dremora in Skyrim as well, or going up against Dremora in a quest as Mehrunes Dagon or Mehrunes Dagger, which is a Daedric quest in Skyrim as well. But it's also in Oblivion too, and that's one thing I really want to touch base here though too when it comes to Oblivion, other than Skyrim, is that it has better Daedric quest design. There's more of a story to it, and I'm not saying that there wasn't a story within the Daedric quests as well in Oblivion, but it's what I previously stated. It's the fact that in Oblivion, everything is just much fleshed out better. It's so interesting how a game can be a little bit more surpassing a newer generational title, much like Elder Scrolls 4 or 5, Elder Scrolls 5 Oblivion, or Skyrim, excuse me. Oh my God, can't talk today. So that's what I'm saying. I think that's where Oblivion really stands the test of time, in showing that this game was ahead of its time when this game initially came out, because this game was a big deal when it first initially came out as well. And I'm not saying that Skyrim wasn't a big deal, because, like I said, that game sold millions of copies. So did Oblivion. But it's the reason why Oblivion is a much better game from that of Skyrim. And going back to my experience when I shot my very first Oblivion portal or Oblivion gate, like I said, it was awesome. It was amazing. The experience was there. It was the excitement. And it was the excitement as to what Oblivion was able to provide to me, not just as a gamer, but appreciating the RPG mechanics of Oblivion as well. And I think that's where Oblivion really stands the test of time when it comes to a proper, better RPG from that of Skyrim. But like I said, I still love Skyrim as a whole. Okay, now here we go. So that's basically what my experience was. Overall, what I really want to discuss here, though, too, is that with the leveling system, much like Skyrim's, but the leveling system in Oblivion is far more unique. It's more robust. It's more deep involvement, and you really have to be careful how you're going to maintain each different type of major skill in order to level up. You cannot level up your minor skills, however, but if you select a minor skill to a major skill, then you can level up that skill. But you basically, what I'm saying is that when you go with one-handed with a warrior, right, or with a thief, and you use one-handed weapons, much like a sword or a mace, it's going to level up the one hand. It's not going to level up the one-handed like what Skyrim does. It's going to level up blunt. And once you get up to +5, you can't go you can't go anymore. So that means you have to go to another weapon style, whether if it's a two-handed sword or a two-handed war axe or something like that. And what I'm saying is that the leveling system it's so interestingly unique because of how deep the role-playing mechanics are when it comes to its leveling system. And so you literally have to be careful of how you're going to level up. Because if you don't level up efficiently, for what I understand as well, when it comes to Oblivion, you will get wrecked because the enemies in Oblivion will level up with you. And that's one thing that really kind of tripped me off a little bit, or maybe off kilter with Oblivion because of the leveling system. Like I said, I feel like when it comes to the leveling system in this game, it's not for me. It's too complex. A lot of people will say, well, it's pretty simple, really. It's like, well, be that as it may, but even still, just like, I just don't know if I really want to get into Oblivion as much as I really want to love it, which I do, because I have watched several walkthroughs on this game on YouTube, and that's another part of the experience that I've had with this game as well, other than playing this game like more than 3 to 4 hours when it came to the factions, as I previously mentioned with the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood. I'd never tried the Mages Guild, I'd never tried the Fighters Guild, and I'm thinking that I should, because I really want to talk about those factions as well, because I think but as I previously mentioned, when it came to the Thieves Guild, though, and the Dark Brotherhood and Oblivion, it's so good, ladies and gentlemen. It's by far one of my favorite 2 faction quest lines in Oblivion so far. But like I said, I really want to put out more of a deep dive on the factions in Oblivion, because I feel like that when it came to Oblivion as well, from what I understand, as I have already have mentioned, is that the factions in Oblivion are that much better. And so I really think when it comes to Oblivion 2, it's no reason why a lot of people prefer this game over Skyrim. There's no question about it. But I get the reason why this game is so well loved, other than Skyrim or even Fallout. But to me personally, I'm more of an Elder Scrolls fan than a Fallout. While I do like Fallout 4, and while I did play a little bit of Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3, but it's the fact that I think that when it comes to Elder Scrolls, there's just something about these games that are far more interesting to me. There's a mystical and profound vibe that Oblivion and Skyrim really gives me that type of feel, and it's magnificent. It's inspiring. It's awesome, and I think that's where Oblivion is. Like I said, it's just a better game with some of the experiences that I've had with this game as well. And it just goes to show you that I do really greatly appreciate Bethesda. I think I appreciate for all they do and all the work that they put into these types of games in general, much like Fallout or Elder Scrolls. And I think when it comes to Fallout or Elder Scrolls series, is that these games are their bread and butter, other than Starfield. And what I will say is that I am going to make a separate video on Starfield at some point and talk about that game because I have played that game for a little bit on my brother's Xbox Series X. And one thing I will mention here real quick, I kind of like it a little bit, but I need to delve a little bit more into that game and really come out to the final conclusion of what I truly think about that game in general as well. But overall, I really think Oblivion, I still think that this game still holds up today in 2024, whether if you're playing it vanilla or even with mods. This game is just utterly fantastic, and I really can't wait to see what other future games Bethesda Softworks has in store other than Starfield. But I do know that Fallout 5 will eventually be coming out in the not too distant future. But I do know that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be coming out first before Fallout 5. But anyways, too much further ado, thank you for tuning in. Greatly appreciated. Any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. This is Jake from Citizen JV, and you guys have a good rest of your week.